Greek mythology is full of tales of love, tragedy, and transformation. One of the most well-known and tragic myths is that of Narcissus, a young man of great beauty, who fell in love with himself to the point of turning into a flower, the daffodil, a symbol of self-obsession and unrequited love. This story not only reveals the depths of human vanity, but also the consequences of a lack of self-understanding and an obsession with one's own image. The metamorphosis of Narcissus is one of the most powerful myths in Greek mythology. Its relevance has endured throughout the centuries, being interpreted in various ways in art, literature, and popular culture. The story of Narcissus is found in various sources of Greek mythology, the most famous being that told by the poet Ovid in his work Metamorphoses. Narcissus was the son of the nymph Liriope and the river Cephissus. From birth, he was a young man of extraordinary beauty, whose appearance captivated all who met him. His mother, Liriope, concerned about the nature of her son's beauty, went to the wise Tiresias to inquire about Narcissus's future. The soothsayer told her that her son would live a long life, but only if he never came to know himself. This seemingly simple prediction sealed Narcissus's fate. The young man was so beautiful that everyone who saw him fell in love with him. However, Narcissus, aware of his great beauty, kept himself aloof from others, indifferent to their feelings and captivated by his own reflection. The story of Narcissus is intertwined with the tragedy of Echo, a nymph who was condemned by the goddess Hera to only be able to repeat the last words she heard from others. Echo, in love with Narcissus, tried to approach him, but he harshly rejected her, uninterested in reciprocating her love. Echo, unable to fully express her love, retreated to the mountains, where, consumed by sadness and despair, her body disintegrated, and only her voice remained, echoing in the caverns and the mountains. Narcissus's indifference to Echo and others who fell in love with him did not go unnoticed by the gods. Nemesis, the goddess of vengeance and justice, decided to punish Narcissus for his vanity and selfishness. To do so, she led him to a crystal-clear pool with a young man, bending down to drink, saw his own reflection. Narcissus's encounter with his reflection in the water was a defining moment in his life. Seeing the image of his face in the water, Narcissus was deeply captivated. He was unaware that this image was simply a reflection of himself, and he began to fall madly in love with the figure he saw. Unable to tear himself away from his reflection and trapped in his own image, Narcissus fell into a kind of trance. He was so obsessed with his beauty that he could not stop looking at himself, ignoring his body's needs, such as hunger and thirst. Day after day, he remained by the pool, unable to abandon his image. His self-obsession drove him to despair. He did not understand that his love was unattainable, as the object of his desire was a mere illusion, a projection of his own being. Narcissus, out of confusion and anguish at not being able to achieve what he desired, finally fell into the water and died. The tragedy of his fate was that his unrequited love for himself led him to a lonely and agonizing death. When Narcissus died, the gods, moved by the tragedy, decided to honor his memory and his beauty. Instead of letting his body disappear, they transformed it into a flower, the daffodil, a flower characterized by its beauty and fragility, but also by its tendency to lean over the water, as if constantly gazing at its own reflection. Thus, the Narcissus flower became a symbol of vanity, self-love, and obsession with appearance. The daffodil, with its characteristic trumpet-like shape and white or yellow color, is associated with the figure of Narcissus because, like him, the flower seems to always be looking toward the water, searching for its own image. This myth symbolizes the tragedy of those who are lost in their own reflection and the inability to find true love outside of oneself. The myth of Narcissus has been interpreted in many ways over the centuries. In ancient Greece, the myth was a warning against vanity and selfishness, suggesting that excessive self-love can lead to destruction. In this sense, the story of Narcissus is a reflection on the dangers of focusing too much on oneself and ignoring the emotional and social needs of others. The myth has also been interpreted as a metaphor for a lack of self-understanding. Narcissus was unable to understand that his love was directed toward an illusion. This idea has been adopted in various psychological schools of thought, especially personality psychology. The term narcissism has become a key concept in modern psychology, used to describe a pattern of behavior characterized by excessive self-concern and a lack of empathy for others. The myth has also been interpreted as a metaphor for a lack of self-understanding. Narcissus was unable to understand that his love was directed toward an illusion. This idea has been adopted in various psychological schools of thought, especially in personality psychology. The term narcissism has become a key concept in modern psychology, used to describe a pattern of behavior characterized by excessive self-concern and a lack of empathy for others. In literature and art, the figure of Narcissus has been explored in numerous works. Artists have often depicted Narcissus as a young man contemplating himself in the water. His story has served as inspiration for poets, painters, and philosophers who have reflected on the nature of love, desire, and identity. The story of Narcissus is not only a tragedy about vanity and selfishness, but also a profound reflection on human nature. It reminds us of the dangers of obsession with appearance and of living in a world of illusions, where true connection with others is lost. Narcissus's transformation into a flower is a reminder of how beauty, when pursued selfishly and unbalanced, can become a prison that prevents us from achieving true love and self-understanding. Thus, the myth of Narcissus, with its timeless message, continues to resonate in our contemporary society, where the cult of image and self-obsession remain relevant themes. The daffodil flower, which stares at its reflection, becomes a symbol of the dangers of living trapped in a cycle of self-contemplation and of being unable to see beyond oneself. If you'd like to learn more interesting stories, you can follow my YouTube channel, Frank Fernandez Historia.